Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of January 24 to order, please. Please stand for the pledge. Ready to begin?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would everyone please bow their head? Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us here tonight. We ask that you give this council the wisdom, the strength to make the right decisions for this city. In this we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bob. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Hutchins.
Present.
Candia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina.
Present.
Mayor Kate.
Present. Thank you. We'll go to item 5, declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none, we'll go to item 6, ceremonial matters. I don't think we have any tonight. We'll go to item 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. Any member of the public wish to address the council? Now is the time to do it. Please step to the podium and state your name.
My name is Daniel Padilla, and I live in Ceres, California. And I just want to address the mayor, council, staff, and the public that I will be running for Stanislaus County Supervisor, District 5. I know the filing period is a couple weeks away, and I intend on running. And I'm a licensed civil engineer. I have 10 years of water resources engineering experience. And I also, a few years ago, obtained a master's degree in public administration. And I think a little competition is healthy for our local citizens. And I'm married and I have 2 kids. And thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Dan, welcome. Any other member of the public wish to address the council? Mr. Rocha?
Todd Rocha from Newman, address 27513 Highway 33. I'm here tonight to represent the baseball board. I'm one of 3 city appointees now that sit on the baseball board of the Newman Youth Baseball Association. The other 2 being Tony Lemus and Derek Solano, and by de facto our wives. So, just to give you a brief update on where we are right now, we've had 3 very long meetings already to get up to speed, and our first meeting was 5 hours. We went over the bylaws, and so we're reworking the bylaws to try to update them and clean up some of the language. Registrations, we've had 2 now, 3 registrations, I'm sorry. Registrations are going well. We have 3 more, 2 more at night at Pizza Plus, and 1 more this Saturday at the Hunt Gym during basketball, recreational basketball. One of the changes we made this year is we've lowered the age of the T-ballers to 4 years old to start playing T-ball, which is in line with what the nearby cities that we play with, what's what they do as well. Physically, we've been making some physical improvements to the snack bars for health and safety. There's been some wiring issues in the past, or breakers would pop, and we found some hot wires. One of us is an electrician, Tony Lemus is an electrician, and coordinating with Public Works Director and Building Inspection, we'll be making some improvements to that to solve some of the ongoing problems, and we'll be working with the county health inspector to make sure we're in compliance. The presidents of the associations will be meeting soon. They've had to delay our meeting a couple of times, but we have to coordinate our program with Hillmar, Gustine, Crow's Landing, and Delhi coordinates with Hillmar, so we work with them as well. But the presidents are all meeting to coordinate that. There was been some stresses from past couple of years, and they seem to already be abating somewhat. So making some progress in our relations with the other boards. We've maxed out our sponsorship so far for the number of sponsors that we request or ask, and they've generously donated this year. Again, many returning sponsors, some new. So any more sponsors we'll take to sponsor kids directly, but for the anticipated number of teams, we have enough sponsors, and Mrs. Lemus has taken that on, and she did a great job with it. Our funds look good. We'll have financial reports available to the public at each of our scheduled monthly meetings, which is the second Monday of each month in this chamber. We've been updating the website. Derek Solano is a communications director, and he's now updating the website and keeping things current on there. So any information will be available that way. Something new this year is we are going to start offering script, no T in there, script through to help as a fundraiser for the program. If you're not familiar with that, that's basically gift cards you buy to participating vendors, and they offer a percentage back to the agency that sells them. Many private schools do it. I understand one of the local public schools does it, and we're going to offer it as well. It turns into a great ongoing funding source, and so we're looking at some big dreams for the fields, and this could be a way to perhaps update lighting or update sound system, provide lighting perhaps at Barrington if it's conducive with the neighborhood, maybe looking at other properties. I mean, the pro formas for this look big, so we can dream big, and we'll be sharing those ideas with you, and as time goes on, and the funds increase. Being a nonprofit, we have to have targeted goals. We can't just keep amassing money with no goals in mind. So we're pretty excited about that. And then so with the fields this year, we've got a field day coming up, and that's when we do our springtime improvements to get them ready for the season. And we'll be working with Public Works to get an ongoing program to keep the maintenance of the fields on a more of a programmed schedule, so we don't have to do all the work in the spring. There's a fall aspect to it as well that's pretty standard for sports fields. So that's all I have for the updating you on the board. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to.
Any questions of Todd? Todd, I just like to thank Tony, yourself, and Derek for being willing to step in, and it was Michael's appointment to get 3 individuals on that board. Hopefully it will resolve a lot of the issues that have been going on in the past, and I think with the 3 of you on there, it's going to help to remind the board and the coaches that it's about the kids. It's not about coaches and not about board members and all the infighting. So I appreciate it, and look forward to having a successful season. There'll be a few bumps in the road, and that's to be expected, but hopefully the parents and board members and coaches will conduct themselves accordingly. So
Yes.
thank you.
Well, it's our honor to serve. And
Thank you.
just so you know, Hillmar has a very good sign on their fields, and I don't know it verbatim, but it has something to the effect, let the players play, let the umpires ump, and let the adults be adults.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
I've
We're
heard
going to
that
get those
saying.
signs made and
Yeah.
posted in our fields as well.
Yeah.
And that'll help.
It will.
And yes, stepping in is I'm the snack bar coordinator, so it's more stepping in. It's jumping in with both feet. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, thank you, Todd. Any other member of the public wish to address the council? Please step up to the mic.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Philbrook, and I am the branch manager of your Newman Public Library. And I wanted to take a moment to let you know about the programs that are available at the library in the coming month. Our next Children's Craft Day will be on Tuesday, February the 7th at 3:30 in the afternoon, where we will be making faux stained glass vases. And I actually have a sample today. Put a nice little tea light in there, and it glows real nice. Our story time, we have tomorrow morning, as usual, Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, but then we're going to take the month of February off. regroup, plan the next quarter of a year. And so we will resume our weekly story time on March 1st at 10 o'clock, but none during the month of February. I just want to remind you that these free programs are brought to you through the 1/8 cent dedicated sales tax that supports the library. Please come by and visit, and I look forward to seeing you at the library.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else wish to address the council? Okay. We'll go to item 8, consent calendar. A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions set by title. B is approval of the warrants. And C is approval of the minutes of the January 10, 2012 regular meeting. D is adopt resolution number 2012, next to number, a resolution approving the automatic annual inflation adjustment for capital, facility, and impact fees for the period of March 1, 2012 through February 28, 2013. And before we have a motion, I'd like to pull on a separate action, warrant number 100994, and act on it, and I'd like to have some discussion on that. So on the others, have a motion?
I move that we approve this consent calendar as read.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And warrant number 100994, I just had a question. It's a minimal amount, but I guess my question is, the amount is charged to our city credit card. When our employees go off to school and training and so forth, I think we give them a pretty generous per diem. And to see an additional charge that probably should come off that per diem rather than going on a credit card for room service. I just have a little problem with it. And I think we probably ought to address that issue. I don't know what the circumstances are.
I can look into it for you, but that's not standard protocol that
Yeah,
that occurs. Okay.
If you would, Chief, please.
Well, our corporal went to a supervisor class. When he registered, he put his credit card down for any incidentals. It was a mistake by the hotel to charge the room service to the card that we reserved the hotel under. He didn't have the actual card when he went. He had his own card. The hotel made a mistake. The officer is going to reimburse the city with the amount that he wrote because he thought they charged his card. It was just a mix-up.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I didn't want to point fingers or say anything. I just wanted it just to be addressed. I just didn't think it was appropriate that, for room service.
It wasn't, and he didn't try to get by on anything. He thought he charged his card, and I had the same questions you did, and he's making it right with the city by reimbursing with a check.
Great. That's the only question I had. And so we act on that warrant, please.
Make a motion to approve warrant number 100944.
994.
I'm sorry.
Second that motion.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Chief, for the explanation. I appreciate it. Item 9 is public hearings. Seeing none, we'll go to item 10, regular business. A is report on the Public Works Department Capital Improvement Program. Gardner.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you stated, the item before you tonight is to consider a report on the capital improvement program for the City of Newman Public Works Department. The capital improvement program is a short-range 5-year dynamic plan which identifies capital projects and equipment purchases, funding, and is used as a planning tool throughout our work. The CIP strives to balance the city's capital and infrastructure needs for the next 5 years based on available funding. The process utilized to develop the capital improvement program consists of inventorying our existing assets, identifying projects, prioritizing those projects, and identifying the funding if possible. Some of the remaining steps are for the council to adopt the capital improvement program, for staff to manage and monitor the program and update it periodically, and we bring you back every year. We bring this back to council for their consideration. One thing that I'd like to stress to council is on the funding. If funding is available, we move that project forward. If it's not, then we'll pull that project back down. That's why it's a dynamic program that will evolve every year. This program is for fiscal years 2011 and 12 through 2015-16. The total estimated funding necessary for this 5-year program is approximately $16 million. We should note that, however, the water and sewer infrastructure account for the majority of the projects in this CIP. Those are estimated about $13.8 million. In order to ensure funding for those projects, which are the majority of them and are quite expensive, staff's going to actively work on securing funding for those, like state revolving loan, maybe bond fund, look for grants in order to fund those. If we don't get funding for those, then we'd push those out into outlying years until we can get funding available for those. With that, I do have some slides. I did give you a handout on the program itself, an Excel spreadsheet. I'd like to go over a few of those with you. I'll get the hang of this here. There we go. Okay, so I'll hit some of the highlights for you as we go through the funds. One note I was clarified this evening on was on the City Hall improvements. It says water, sewer, and general fund. It's water, sewer, and public facility impact fee. I was misquoted on that. Under government buildings, one thing to note is the biggest project we have in here is the $400,000 for our CNG fast fill facility. That is a grant fund that's funded through CMAQ, which is congestion mitigation and air quality, and then the improvements to the City Hall building, which I noted earlier. On the street maintenance fund, I'll step out of your way so you can see a little bit here. We have the PQR improvement project for $120,000. That's CDBG funded. The urban forestry tree program for $42,000. That program is underway currently. And then the big project we have in here is the Inyo Highway 33 traffic signal improvements, which is funded through RSTP, LTF, and development impact fees. And that project is currently underway as well. Under the parks, we've identified one of our bigger projects is the recycled tire program, which is the rubberized bark that we're putting in our parks and our landscape areas. And then we have the LLD which we're looking at, which is Sherman Park, doing some fence repairs, some sidewalk repair project, which is in our LLD project. We've identified funding for those in the program and the landscape improvements, and those are in the outlying years that we'll be going in and repairing sidewalks, repairing landscaping, and things of that nature as funding becomes available. Then we have the Corporation Yard Fund, which we've identified for the next 2 years, approximately $15,000 for our existing Corporation Yard improvements. Continuing on the sewer fund, this is where we get into the larger projects. We have $4.06 million for aeration basin improvements. We're currently under negotiations with the regional board to expand our permit, and a part of this we anticipate is that we'll have to do some aeration basin improvements, and that's what this project is for. In addition to that, we have some pipeline improvements. These are infrastructure improvements that's been identified in our master plan, approximately $1.365 million. Under the storm drain fund, we don't currently have any funding, so we haven't listed any projects. We've listed some improvements identified in the master plan, but due to no funding, we haven't identified when those projects may move forward. On the water fund, projects that we've been forecasting in our master plan is the new well, 1.5 million gallon storage tank and booster pump station for $4.9 million. In addition to that, we have some wireless meter reading program that we're projecting out. The wireless meter reading program is a program that other cities have implemented in that they put the meters in and they're able to read them from City Hall. You don't have to have staffing going out and pulling and reading each and every one of those meters. They can turn the meters on and off as a customer pays their bill or does not pay their bill. It's a project that saves on staff time. It is expensive upfront capital costs, long-range costs. It does save the city some money. In addition to that, we've identified some system improvements for Fig Lane, M Street Alley, Amy Drive, Sydney, and a municipal test hole. These are infrastructure improvements that we've identified. And then the Aquatic Center, it's listed here. However, this project will move forward if the city is successful in obtaining a grant or other funding opportunities that we may get, and then that project would show up as funded in the years as we move on. And then purchase of electric vehicles, which, by the way, we did receive the information back from San Joaquin Unified Air Pollution Control District that we did get that grant. I have the contracts in hand now. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions of Garner?
I just had a couple of questions, Garner.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for clarifying that the general fund went on the.
Yes, sir.
I know we don't have anything in our drain system, storm drain system.
Correct.
So what is the status of our storm drain system? I mean, is it in good
Existing
shape,
system?
or is it in?
Our existing system has some deficiencies that have been identified. It can always be better. Some of it is the aging infrastructure that needs to be upgraded. We're doing some of those with the PQR street project. We're going to be improving. There's some handicap ramps that have these half pipes on them that interferes with our drainage. We're going to be putting in proper handicap ramps and improving those drainage systems in that area. But in general, we're pretty good. We don't really, as long as we maintain the system and keep it going. But in the future, we're going to have some system improvements that we've identified, like on the water and sewer program, that we have to do infrastructure improvements. As it ages, you have to continually upgrade it.
and maybe I'm just getting old, don't say anything. But can you refresh my memory on why we don't gather any storm drain funds? We don't have a fund for storm drain?
Part of that goes to the fact that when you go down Sherman Parkway, there's a large stormwater conveyance system, the open channel. When that was constructed by the developers, it cost more money to develop that system than we could give them in credits, because each house has to pay a storm drainage fee. So they put in more money into the system than they got credit. So there's an outstanding amount that we owe them. So that's why we have not been collecting any fees, because one, all the houses in Hearthstone Ranch and in Sherman Ranch have all gotten a storm drainage credit, if you will, because they put the improvements in. So you haven't collected any money on those probably 450, 500 houses out there. Instead of paying the fee, they actually built and constructed the improvements. So that's why that account is limited in the amount of funds that are in that account. And the reason it's at a deficit is, again, the total cost of the improvements exceeded the credit, so therefore the developer was subject to a reimbursement agreement, for which we gave him a reimbursement agreement for, it was 7 years, and then in our settlement agreement we extended it to for 9 years. So for the next 9 years, anybody who connects into that system, they get the fee as a reimbursement for the oversizing that they did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. What about the rest of the city, though? I mean, that's 500 homes. Are we collecting from the rest of the city?
Well, again, if you go out to, let's say, Stevens Ranch, they built their own storm drainage facility, and they built the improvements. If you build the improvements, you don't collect the fee. There's two things a developer can do. They can pay an in lieu fee, if you will, which says, I'm going to pay you money and then the city is going to go out and construct these improvements, or they can construct the improvements. A lot of these places, Sherman Ranch, Hearthstone Ranch, and Stevens Ranch, which are our three latest projects, all built the improvements. So therefore, you're not collecting any money if they've already built the improvement. So that's why there was no cash in those funds.
Okay, well, the reason I ask that is I'm looking at probably the needs coming up for repairs are not going to be in those three areas. They're going to be in the older areas of the city.
You cannot use public facility fees to replace old equipment. Public facility fees can only be used for new equipment. You can't use your fees to subsidize long-term maintenance and replacement cost through your public facility fee program. That's not what that program's for. Public facility fee programs are to construct new improvements where the impact has been generated by that development.
And unlike the water and sewer fund, there's an annual fee, or a monthly fee for those. The storm drain fund does not have an established monthly fee to bring in for maintenance of our, ongoing maintenance of our systems.
That was the one, I think, that's the question
Yeah.
I had, is just why doesn't the storm drain system have a monthly maintenance fee?
It was never established, and in order to establish that, we have to go through a vote process, a 218 process to establish that, and there's been almost no success on getting those established once 218 went into effect. And the city of Newman does not have that.
But that can be a discussion if the council, I mean, we can start talking about long-term goals, if that's the long-term goal of the council to establish a storm drainage maintenance fee, if you will. That's something that we can look into, but, you're gonna have to invest some money and do the report and get the Prop 218 process going.
Correct.
In order for that to occur.
Well, I just look at, we haven't had any flooding in a few years, but if we do have it again and the system deteriorates more and more, we're going to have less and less to handle anything. So that's why I just wondered what we could do about that.
Currently, at this point, we don't have any maintenance funds identified. We do utilize our general fund that pays our employees for going and maintaining the system, though. But we don't have any enterprise funds that we utilize for this.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, Garner? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Item B is adopt resolution number 2012.
Mayor, if it may, we'd like the council to just do a simple motion, minute order, just to accept the capital improvement program.
Oh, okay. May we have a motion to accept the Public Works Department Capital Improvement Program?
I move that we accept the Public Works Capital Improvement Program.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll go to item D, adopt resolution number 2012, next in number, a resolution awarding a contract to Acosta and Sons Incorporated for the City Hall casework project for a not-to-exceed amount of $31,200 and authorize the city manager to execute said contract.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and take this one. As you know, the move to downtown, the Oddfellows building, is ongoing. What we have before us tonight is a casework project. Casework will include cabinets, front counter for the administration building, and then counter work in the break room. At this point in time, it does not include the new dais that will go into the council chamber, but we fully anticipate that the same vendor will provide that because they've done a very good job for us and we've worked out some pretty good designs. So, with that being said, we did interview and have a few people come out and take a look at our building and come back and give us quotes and potential designs. Acosta and Son out of Waterford came recommended by the city of Escalon, who's doing a new city hall at this point in time. They also gave a recommendation that we further checked in with Series Unified. They've been the vendor and basically the cabinet casework maker for the Series Unified for probably 2 decades or more. They built their dais and did all their casework, not only in the classroom, but again in their meeting room. So with that, what we have before you tonight is a proposal by Acosta and Sons in the amount of what we're asking for is not to exceed $31,200. We've provided you some the drawings that are in your package. The drawing number 1 would be the front counter. Basically an aerial view looking down on the front counter of what that would be at in the new City Hall building. That will accommodate 2 workspaces, basically your cashiers that work up front and take payment centers. So currently we have 1 full-time employee that sits up at the counter and does the work, and we have a part-time employee that does that work as well. So by designing it for 2, we built in a lot of capacity into this cabinet here. It's going to last us probably at least more than up to 2 decades in terms of workspace. On the other side of the counter, which if you're looking at your plan, the cashiers are on the left where it says 144 inches. On the right, there's some storage area there. Lots of times we, as staff, go to the counter to meet people at the counter to answer questions for us. Our planner does that a lot. Our city clerk does that a lot during election season. And so that can be handled on the right side where it kind of notches out. If you continue from left to right as you look at your drawing there's a note that says ADA knee space. You have to provide a reduced counter height for ADA accessibility requirements. That is accomplished at in that particular spot there. Then the ADA knee space allows persons who may be limited to wheelchair access to go ahead and slide in there and have some access there, and that would be right there by the doorway there. So that's kind of the top view. If you look at page 2, again, you can kind of see this is the view from behind it, looking forward. On the right-hand side this time is the space for the front counter workers. You see knee space, that's for two individuals. On the left-hand side, you have file space, file storage space. And those are for easy handouts for people who come up to the counter. You can easily get in and out of those access points there. At the counter height, as you can see there, the counter height on the right-hand side is a little bit lower than the left-hand side, and that just allows for a better working service for the employees that work up in that space. There's also a tack board behind there that's going to be very good for them. We really worked with our front office employees on helping to design this. They had direct input on this because, our position was, they're the ones that spend the most time up there. We wanted to try to make that as comfortable as we could for them and trying to get in there because, how do you become efficient and still comfortable? And, if you're doing this a lot and you're reaching and try to give change back, there's some ergonomics that get involved with that. So we really work with them on what was the best way. So, going back to sheet 1, you can't really see it, but on the left-hand side, the counter, as you can see, it's notched again as you look down on it because the counter is only is reduced width. I think it's 24 inches for where the workspace is, and it goes to like 30 where those cabinets were. So again, try to reduce that space that they have to reach to hand back change, and again, try to make it as comfortable for someone who has to do that on a continual basis. On when I say continual, I mean all day long for 8 hours. One of the strengths and traits of why we liked Acosta was because they've designed banks, front counters for banks and retail centers and those types of things. So they had a lot of that experience that they could say, hey, if you're going to be doing that all day long, you may want to do this here, and then you can extend it out on the other side. So that worked to our favor there. Moving on to page 3, and I'm going to just go over this real quick. We're trying to keep some of the design, of the historical design that you saw with the original Oddfellows. So that's why you'll see some of those details and those patterns in the front. Those patterns are actually, he took a piece of the baseboard, and he'll go out and match that and then put that on there. So the baseboards are going to match the front counter there and the colors. And so we think it's a very good design. I'm going to kind of move on a little bit. If you go to page 6, these are some cabinets that are going to be custom made and installed. And this will be in our copy center area towards the back of the room. And again, just it's kind of your mail room, your copy center room. You need a lot of space for that. And then moving on to page 7, 8, and you'll see that's the break room design there. Again, cabinets up there, and you've got a built-in microwave, and then ultimately there'll be a refrigerator, a trash drop, so you don't have a trash can out. There'll be a little hole in the counter, you can drop it off there. These are all little things that the designers really helped us with. I think one thing you'll see is if you move on to page 9, and the counter, this is a detail from the front counter. The top of the front counter, the transaction piece, is going to be a hard surface like a Corian surface. It's going to be hard because you don't, with everyone's elbows moving back and forth, you really want a hard surface there so it stands the test of time. Down below, again, the veneers will be on the bottom part. This type of surface here will be the surface on the front. And then on the work surface will also be a veneer on there as well. But what we did on the work surface is we took the blunt, it's a hard surface, again, a Corian, and put it on the end. So if this is where you're working, we took a Corian rounded blunt nose here. So that way, again, when the girls are working, it stands the test of time better, it doesn't catch them, it doesn't chip and catch the edges. So we just think it'll stand the test of time better. So all that product installed was just over $29,000. We did include a 5% contingency on this for $31,200. There are color renderings in front of you. Here in the top left corner, this is the front door. The original front door, and you can see the color inside of the original building. We're trying to match up with the original building color there. these are our walls, and this is going to be our hard surface here. So we're just kind of giving you some ideas of what those colors are going to be. Again, we allowed and worked with our front office staff to help us select these colors. I'll tell you all day long and twice on Sundays, I don't pick colors. I'm not really good at that. So I thought our office ladies did a really good job of participating in that. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have regarding this proposal.
Questions or comments from Michael?
Looks good, Michael.
Yeah, Cliff Acosta has really done a good job for us, and we're very happy with this service. We actually had one vendor come in and just for the front counter, they wanted like $60,000. Here's Cliff's doing custom made, custom designed front counter, Corian surface on top, cabinets in the break room, and cabinets in our copier room for $30. So
Any anticipated time, Michael, on
I think we're shooting that this is going to be installed early March. We have to get our furniture in, and once the furniture's in, then the counter comes in and you do the rest. So.
Okay, council direction.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2012, next number, a resolution awarding a contract to Acosta and Sons, Inc. for the City Hall casework project for a not-to-exceed amount of $31,200 and authorizing the city manager to execute said contract.
Motion and a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item C, adopt resolution number 2012, next in number, resolution awarding the office furnishings bid to the Office City for a not-to-exceed amount of $32,600 and authorizing city manager to execute said contract.
Thank you, Mayor. Second piece tonight is furnishings, supplying the office furniture that goes about there. There are a number of pieces that we're going to be able to transfer from our existing facility over there, but as you know, that's quite a large facility. So we're going to be doing some new outfitting. Also, many of you probably don't know, when the city bought this building, however many decades ago it was, the mayor might know, the furnishings, the desks that were in there came with it. So they're pretty beat up, they're pretty old, so it's time to update that. So with that, we came back in, and you can see here, again, we looked at a couple different vendors, did a couple tours. Basically, the Office City with a representative out of Los Banos came back, and they came back and again offered the best deal. Since they provided some of the furnishings that we already have, we'll have an exact match in terms of what the color scheme is going to be, and the surface will be an exact match. So when we carry the old furniture over, it's going to, again, it'll blend perfectly with the new furniture. But in your package, we just, we went through, and in the main auditorium, in the main room that you go in, basically there's 6 workstations there. Actually, there's going to be more than that. There's 3 there, 3 in the back, and 2 in front. There's 8 workstations, which is quite a lot of additional capacity than what we're currently having right now. Right now, we have 3 full-time and a part-time. So we have some built-in capacity. With that being said, the Alliance, which we have a representative here tonight, has done an excellent job of providing us some back-to-work employees, and we've been able to utilize their skills in helping us do a lot of projects. Lots of times they need their own desk and their own space there. In the very, very back of that room, there will be a counting area. So when you're closing out your cash receipts for the day, we want you to go back to a secure area where there's a safe, away from the public, so you can count your money in quiet and in peace. So that's a very important aspect of it. And then, we've got 2 conference rooms we're trying to outfit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 offices, and another in the Public Works, which, as you know, is currently out at the water tower site. They'll be moving into this particular building here, so we had to create a counter for them. It was more appropriate, more cost effective to use this setup for their counter work, because they don't deal with a lot of people coming to the counter and doing work, and you're not making a lot of change and doing those things. So it was more effective for them, and they have a little 2-person counter there. again, one full-time person and built-in capacity for later. So we've kind of given you all the information on there, and again, we're kind of using a matching color that we already have. This is a cherry wood laminate surface. That'll be the color of the furniture in the back. So with that, I can answer any questions that any of the council members may have at this time. At this time, we're asking again that office furnishings to get the bid to the office city, for not to exceed amount of $32,600.
Questions or comments? Council direction?
Move that we adopt resolution number 2012, next number, awarding the City Hall office furnishings bid to the office city for a not to exceed amount of $32,600.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item D is adopt resolution number 2012, next in number, a resolution electing to retain the housing assets and functions previously performed by the redevelopment agency of the city of Newman pursuant to Part 1.85 of Division 24 of the California Health and Safety Code.
Thank you, Mayor. This staff report is written by one of our legal counsel. As you can tell, it's pretty lengthy.
Oh, that's cold.
So AB 1X26, the dagger to redevelopment agencies. We're still doing we'll have this item and then we'll have another one. It's probably an issue we're going to be dealing with for some time. The frustrating part is, there's a lot of questions and very few answers. Even the people who are study the legalities of redevelopment are having lots and lots of questions with AB 126. There are no answers. A lot of people want to get it extended to the April 15th deadline. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the governor is going to do it. My position is just rip the Band-Aid off. It's dead. Just rip the Band-Aid off, throw it in the trash, and let's move forward. So. With that, there are still some procedural things that we need to do. One is we need to, as you know, you've elected to be the successor agency for the redevelopment agency. Now there's a second piece to that is the housing aspect. As you know, 20% of the tax increment was always set aside for low and moderate housing. This community has always done an excellent job of providing affordable housing. We've already met the next 10 years worth of housing requirements as required by our redevelopment plan. So we've done an excellent job with that. However, we still think it's probably an important task to retain the role of housing administrator for the redevelopment of low and moderate income funds. If we do that, again, we're going to accept all the responsibilities that go along with that. We also retain all the rights, powers, and duties and obligations. Currently, there's about $35,000 in cash, but there's $785,000 in receivables that are going to be coming back to the redevelopment agency with respect to low and moderate housing fund. With that, we can work with partners to try to improve housing opportunities for low and moderate income families within our community. So we think that while AB 126 does not necessarily directly provide an admin fee for the affordable housing part, we think that the admin fee that's provided for the successor agency will cover all of those costs for us. And we think there's enough leeway in there to allow that. So we think that it's in our best interest of the community to retain the housing part. So we're asking tonight that you adopt this resolution, electing to retain the housing assets and functions previously performed by the redevelopment agency.
Questions or comments?
Just one thing, Senate Bill 659, they're going for an urgency method, but the governor's already said he's going to veto it. But one that they brought up when I was at the Capitol last week was SB 654, which says that any cash you have remaining will be given to the county, and the county will allocate it to the cities as per whatever they come up with. So I know we've only got 35,000, but I believe it's already been signed, so what they're gonna do is just take whatever money you've got in cash, take it, you have to give it to the county, and then it's gonna be allocated, I believe. Isn't that pretty much the way it's?
Yeah, I don't think they can get the receivables.
No, they
things
can't
like
get the
that.
receivables, but if you haven't already allocated it to a project,
They're going to
you
do a
have to
sweep.
give it back.
Yeah, they're going to do a sweep, allegedly. Yeah.
So
And
that's
if you,
SB 654.
and if for some reason that didn't go through, the county would be the next in line to take it. And then if they chose, if they have a housing authority, which they do, and if they don't, then it would go to state community development, which nobody prefers.
I know this council has always been a big favor of local control. I think this is just another opportunity to retain as much local control as possible. And as you know, and I talked about at our last meeting, it's basically the state is actually going out right now and trying to seize as much control as possible. And the Supreme Court decision that came down on this case gave them the authority to do that. So let's try to maintain as much local control as we can.
Any other council comments? Council direction?
Steinberg measure.
Yeah.
I so move we adopt resolution 2012, next number, electing to retain the housing asset and function previously performed by the redevelopment agency.
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item E is adopt resolution number 2012, next to number, resolution of the redevelopment agency of the city of Newman amending its enforceable obligation payment schedule pursuant to AB 126. Lou?
Title also written by legal counsel.
You can never tell, huh?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Board of the Newman Redevelopment Agency. On June 29th, the governor signed ABX 26 and 27, eliminating the RDA unless we paid money. On August 11th and 17th, the Supreme Court issued a stay on portions of 26 and 27, putting the transfer to successor agencies on hold. The portion of 26 that wasn't stayed was the requirement to prepare and file an enforceable obligation payment schedule. On August 23rd, this board approved Resolution 2011-8, adopting an enforceable obligation payment schedule, which was a list of financial obligations for the fiscal year and a detailed monthly payment requirement from August to December of 2011. This list would have served as a beginning point for the successor agency to take over on October 1st. On December 29th, the Supreme Court issued its final decision upholding 26 and invalidating 27. ABX 126 has several statutory deadlines that, due to the stay, now have expired. The Supreme Court has extended most dates 4 months from what was written. Successor agencies now take over on February 1st. Because of the extension of these statutory deadlines, redevelopment agencies must update and file an amended enforceable obligation payment schedule prior to January 31st. Before you tonight is a resolution adopting an amended EOPS for the Newman Redevelopment Agency. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Questions of Lou? Council direction.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number, next number 2012, a resolution of the redevelopment agency of the city of Newman, amending its enforceable obligation payment schedule pursuant to AB 126.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to item 11, items from District 5, Stanislaus County Supervisor Jim D. Martini.
Good evening, Mayor Caton, council members. We've got a few things for you tonight. The little bit of news on the Oristimba flood project, not especially good news. We did get a letter from the Corps of Engineers about the dredging of the channel and the replacement of the railroad trestle, and it is their feeling that would not qualify for federal funding because the benefit would not be enough to justify the cost. So that wasn't bad enough. Then we got another bill from the Corps of Engineers for external peer review for this project of another $114,000, which we just approved today. The cost of this project so far is $7.245 million. That's how much money has been spent on this feasibility study, and the feasibility study is still not finished. There's still more work to do on this, and hopefully we can get this done this year. I looked back into the records that I had on this project. The original estimate was for $600,000, and it was supposed to take a couple of years. It has now been 14 years, and $7.2 million has been spent on this, and there is still no real end in sight of just the feasibility study, let alone what it's going to take for design and then actually building of the project. One thing, I did talk to our Public Works Director, and he said that an assessment district would be necessary to get into the design phase of this. So it's something I know that the city is aware of that we're going to have to deal with eventually. Public Works and the Corps of Engineers and Fish and Wildlife is going to arrange a meeting for this area to go over this project. I mean, this has, of course, been ongoing. We've had numerous meetings, but we haven't had one for a while. And I don't have the date of that yet, just a letter saying that they're gonna set one up, but we don't have that. So, not especially good news, and it's disappointing that this project has drug on as long as it has, and has cost as much as it has. We've studied everything to death on this. We've studied plants, hydrology, alternatives, trees, fish, frogs. I mean, it has just been an endless the study after study after study. And now we have somebody that we have to pay to study the results of the studies. Okay, going on to something else. We got a letter from the Navy about a meeting about the Crow's Landing Air Base cleanup. That meeting will be on February 9th at 6:30. I brought a copy of this. I assume that the city has got one, or that you're aware of it. If you're not, I have a copy here that you can have, as I've got a couple of them. The Navy, of course, is responsible for the cleanup. They are paying for it 100%. Of course, they've been there for a few years, digging up buried trash, and but they're going to have to deal now with the water contamination, where there was chemicals that had got into the water, solvents from washing the airplanes, fuels, benzene, and some hydrocarbons that have all went down into the soil, contaminated the water. They have different alternatives that they are studying on this. They have picked alternative 4, which is estimated to cost $5.5 million, which the Navy will pay 100% of that. And just in real basic terms, what they're going to do is pump the water out, filter it, and then just send it back down again. This process is supposed to take about 8 years to do. Other alternatives that they looked at would take as much as 20 years. So this one's a little faster. I've seen this done before in other places where they just keep recirculating the water. They pump it out, filter it, send it back, and then this goes on for 8 years. And if it works the way it should, that the water should be cleaned up. It also keeps the plume from moving too and contaminating other areas, as there's always suction on this. So for anybody who's interested, it's a public meeting that will be at the Villa del Lago February 9th, 6:30. And there's a public comment period going on now. If you want to read the report, I have an extra one that you can have. And you can make written comments if you would like, or you can go to the meeting. The Navy has had meetings before. The last one was probably a couple of years ago, and they went over their cleanup plan. Very few people attended, but it's, in my opinion, that the Navy is doing what it should. They are determined to clean up this area, and they still retain ownership of a certain section of the air base where this contamination has occurred, and when they do get it cleaned up, which is not gonna be for a while, then they will turn it over to the county. And then my last thing is the healthcare task force. We have completed our calendar, we've circulated it out and given out the awards at the school district. I still have some extra ones, so if there's any need for some of the calendars, I still have some. Our next task force meeting will be in Gustine this Thursday at 6 o'clock, and at that time, we will plan our activities for next year, just the basics of what our programs are gonna be, and start a strategic plan. We have a letter of introduction for grant opportunities. That is finished. It was in the packet that was sent out. And the good news on the task force is that Keith Boggs, although he probably won't attend this meeting, he will be back on as staff helping us, and he was just a great help in the past in getting things organized. So our intention is to have, it's sometime within the next 6 weeks or so, a Saturday morning meeting where we're going to do some strategic planning. And this is for, activities that we will go to grant organizations to get funded. So we need to come up with about 3 different activities. And of course, we do quite a few already, but we're always looking for something new and better to do to improve the health care for the district, people that live here. Okay, that's all I have.
Any questions for Jim?
Does anybody want this copy here?
Jim, just, do you have a comment for what's going on in Patterson? Is it still Project X, or is it Amazon yet, or?
It's, in my opinion, Patterson should have just kept quiet about this till they had the deal signed. I think they've got egg on their face here now because they thought that this deal was gonna go through by now, and it hasn't. Hopefully it will. I don't know myself which company it is. That's really under wraps, but I think it might have been premature for Patterson to even announce it, that they were that close when the company involved doesn't want their name used. So there's a lot of speculation now. The site is right next to Keystone. So it's a good site. Hopefully something will go through. Patterson is closer to Highway 5 than Newman. So companies that are looking for distribution, like that freeway access, hopefully it'll be something good, for Patterson. One negative thing is that Patterson Frozen Foods, which is Patterson Vegetable Company, now may shut down. That's about, 500 jobs or so. But I do not know which company is moving in what they call this Project X. I know that there's somebody serious about it, but, the deal's not done yet, and I think the company is probably still doing some due diligence and hasn't fully committed yet, although they may be pretty close. We'll find out soon, but Patterson is really keeping this under wraps, and, they haven't told anybody who it is. I think that's probably I'm sure the wishes of the company that's considering moving in. Don't know who that is, or even how close it will be done.
It will considerably impact this whole area. I mean, there's no question, if that many jobs come in, it's gonna affect Newman and all the towns around this area. So it's
Well, it'd be very positive, that's
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
it's
I mean,
very
there's
positive.
the unemployment rate countywide close to 16%, and on the west side it's even higher. But then, Patterson Vegetable Company shuts down, that's more people out of work, but maybe this will absorb them. There's been a lot of good things that's happened in the Keystone Park. You have CVS there, which is
Granger.
probably close to 1,000 jobs. Granger is another big one. Westphalia, and perhaps this one here. So for a business park for a town of 20,000, they really have generated a lot of jobs out of that business park. So it's been good for the area. We'll probably announce something pretty soon. The county is completely out of it. It had nothing to do with this deal. It's never been kept in the loop. I mean, it's a Patterson project. And hopefully,
Was the land in the city, or is it in the county?
it's in the city. It's right next to Keystone.
Okay.
It was an annexed area that was done a couple of years ago. It's actually owned by one of the city councilmen. was on there. So maybe he had some influence. It's Larry Beaner, who owns the property with his brother Kenny. And I believe it's around 100 acres or 120 or something like that. So, I mean, it's not really a conflict, I guess. The parts was for sale, but I think that they probably will happen, but, we really don't know what the delay is. We don't know who it is or what the delay is or what they're looking at, or perhaps they're looking at, another site and trying to choose between the two. We don't know that either.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Jim, I just have one thing, and I read an article recently that was published in September, which you made some comments that were pretty critical of the cities, and I took it kind of personal, and I consider you a friend, but you made a comment, and I'm referring to the article, the Valley Citizens, that you and Brad Barker and Denny Jackman had commented on the protecting farmland. And what caught my eye is the fact that your comment was that there isn't a mayor in any of these cities who cares about farmland. That really kind of bothered me. The fact that our city and our planning commission has spent quite a bit of time on our maps, and our planning commission spent about 4 hours debating, coming up with some lines, maps that our city manager provided to our planning commission, and then ultimately came to this council when we adopted the maps regarding the farm ag land protection. And I was kind of disturbed that you made these comments, and I'm not really sure what you based it on. The fact that, the comments made that 9 cities keep stalling, city leaders keep appointing building industry friends to the boards and commissions. I don't know of anybody who's done that. And it's really not a mayor's plan. It's not a land grab. I think most cities, all of us, pretty much felt backed into the corner by LAFCO, pressuring cities to come up with a map, come up with some lines. And this city, I think, diligently has done that. I don't know if you've ever requested to see our map. I don't know if you've ever.
I was here when you.
But I don't know if you saw the final maps. And the fact that its perception is that it's a big secret, and I don't think it's a secret at all. And I think the city of Newman over the years has been very diligent in controlling our growth and protecting our farmland. And again, I consider you a friend, and when I read this, I was kind of disturbed that your comment was that not a mayor in any of these cities care about farmland. And that's so far from the truth, so far from the truth. Denny Jackman has been at several of our mayor's meetings. In fact, he was just at our last one, along with Ed Thompson from American Farmland Trust. I prepared our maps and gave him a copy of it. He was quite impressed with the fact that the 9 cities have been talking for such a long time, and the county has been involved in these talks, led by former Supervisor Jeff Grover, now Supervisor Bill O'Brien. So it's not like it's secret meetings have been going on. Our city managers have been meeting on regularly. Planning commissioners have been meeting to try to come up with some distinct lines. And I think our city has done that. I think we've done a good job preserving farmland. In our mind, most cities feel like they need to protect themselves from the county. And that's the way everybody kind of looks at it, like we want to protect our boundaries and our borders from Stanislaus County. And specifically, I think Modesto, Ceres, and Turlock feels that way, strongly feels that they need to protect themselves from Stanislaus County. So these lines that we came up with after lengthy discussion, and I can only speak for our city because that's the only city I care about. And I've had discussion with Mayor Molina and Mayor Vieira, the other 2 cities that you represent. They're not happy with your comments. And I don't know where it came from. And so after I read the article, I debated whether I should even say anything, but I finally thought, I think I need to defend my city and defend our staff, because we did put in a lot of time and come up with these lines. So I think the comment was premature, shot from the hip. However you did it, but I don't appreciate it, and I think it's a slap towards City of Newman and our planning commission and this council, who put in a lot of time, and staff time, and took in consideration what our staff proposed and gave us to take a look at. And I think this council agrees that the map that we finally settled on, chose on, was the right thing for the City of Newman. And we did protect our farmland. That we're governed and we're bound by our sphere of influence, but the planning area was an area that our planning commission really felt that we need to look into the future and decide, if there's going to be some growth, the way we're going to go, whether we ever reach those boundaries, probably not my lifetime. But I think as a city, I think we've done well to prepare and plan for that. So I just wanted to comment. It bothered me, and the fact that then you came to me and asked me for an endorsement for your reelection, and I'm not so sure I would have done that had I read this prior to you asking me that, without some kind of explanation. So,
If I can just give you a brief history there with the county back in 2004, 5, 6, and there we tried to work with the cities to come up with some kind of plan, and we just finally spent a couple of $100,000 on it and had several meetings, and we just finally gave up because nobody was interested in it. That was my frustration with it. We just couldn't get anything done. And farmland preservation, has always been a big issue with me, because I'm a farmer myself, and I've always felt that the farmland that we have in this area is a unique natural resource. It's not duplicated hardly anywhere else in the world. So what's a big issue, and I'm more sensitive to it, and the frustration was that we were never able to get anything done. And, I'm glad to see there's some progress done. My preference is, to have the cities more compact and stay within, lines that make some sense, so, the agriculture, the ground can be farmed. Because, if you fly over California, I had a conference I went to in Arizona, in Phoenix, and coming back, you just fly over the desert and over the mountains, and then when you get into the Central Valley, it's all green. It's a unique area that we have here. We live here, but sometimes we forget how unusual this area is and its agricultural resources. It's not found many places in the world. So anyway, that's kind of my basis from it. But the county had given up on this, and finally, it came up through LAFCO. So it's.
well, I think part of the issue and that I took to it is that there's been a lot of ongoing discussion, and it has been labeled as a mayor's map, and it's not a mayor's map. It's the fact that the 9 mayors in this county, along with Supervisor Grover and Supervisor O'Brien, have had lots of lengthy discussions about just how are we gonna draw lines and how are we gonna look into the future. And the number, when the year 2050 came up, that was just kind of a working document, and that there has been ongoing discussion. There's been a lot of good communication going on between the cities, and I think, Mayor Ridenour had always stressed that we need to work together, and sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. We butt heads, but I think the fact that our city managers and planners have also been talking. This process has finally gotten to a point where there's something tangible that we can look at. And for my city, our city, it's the only city I'm concerned with, is when we looked at these maps, and as recommended by our city manager, we all thought it was a good plan and it was a good map, something to work with. Whether or not we'll ever get beyond our sphere of influence, who knows? Probably not in my lifetime. But I just think, and the other part that kind of bothered me is we, city manager, myself, city manager in Patterson, and Mayor Patterson have been meeting with you for almost 3 years on a monthly basis, and not once has this discussion ever come up in any of those meetings. Have we ever talked about ag land preservation? We've talked about a lot of myriad of other things, but we've never talked about this when there's been golden opportunities for us to do that. We've gone along the process, guided by our city manager, and again, I think a lot of cities felt kind of pressured by LAFCO. We got to do something. We got to do something. We got to get a map. Supervisor DeMartini is really pushing, and unfortunately, I consider you a friend, but you're not considered a friend by a lot of the other mayors because they feel that you're adversarial. Rather than work with us and work together, and I feel we've had a good working relationship, and I want to see that continue. But before things like this are said, I personally would appreciate some kind of contact. I would have loved to known about this article when right after it came out, and it didn't come to my hands till about 3 weeks ago when I read it, and I was just greatly disappointed that those comments would be made because it's so far from the truth. Because I think I, as a mayor, do care about farmland. I think this council cares about farmland, and that's why we drew the map lines where we did. So, but I just want an opportunity just to let you know I read this article and I wasn't too happy. And although I think Denny Jackman is starting to understand, that it's not a mayor's map. It's a map. They're maps that have been talked about, and there's been a lot of discussion. And Ed Thompson from the Farmland Trust out of Davis was at our last mayor's meeting, and he gave a presentation. And I think he also, part of our discussion, was able to see that there's progress being made and there's communication going on. So there's no backdoor deals being made. It's been pretty much out in the open, and each mayor has brought it to their councils, to our city managers, who then went to our planning commissions. I know Patterson's having a hard time with it, and however, I think it's more the political crap that's going on in Patterson more than them trying to talk through their issues. But this council, I think, has taken a serious look at it, along with our planning commission, and made some decisions. So,
Okay, I was here when you passed it.
Michael, any comments?
Mayor, the LAFCO just came out with a report on the last 10 years of activity, annexations, and the like, and a lot of this goes to what the supervisor's been talking about. The growth rate is 2.7% countywide for the cities. The city of Newman has annexed 0 acres in the last decade. 0 acres. We've used our existing inventory. We haven't. The lots that are being built right now were approved in 1999. So, again, we've been good stewards of it. So I have want to echo your sentiments on there. And I just hope that the Board of Supervisors, who, love to talk ag preservation, remember that when there's a 320-acre gravel mining operation being proposed less than a mile from the city of Newman on prime ag land. And they remember that when they take consideration of that permit operation. When you dig a 100-foot deep gravel mine, 300 acres is not coming back ever. So, we'll see what happens if they can walk the walk at that point in time.
Agreed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Items from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. Your Form 700s are due if you have not done those. I know it's our annual track, and we all hate it, but staff does them too. So just know, and people like the mayor's probably got 3 or 4 he's got to fill out. And Don's probably got a couple. I got a couple. Just please, might get still stressed out if you don't get them in too early. If you can get them in by the end of February, we're ahead of the game. Just let the public know we do have some commission openings. 3 seats on the Parks and Rec, 2 seats on the Planning Commission, and 2 seats on Architectural Review. We will be accepting applications up till February 8th of this year, so please get your application in if you're interested. Next year, 2013, Newman will be celebrating its quacentennial, 125 years of existence. We are going to be having our first planning committee meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. here in the council chambers. So if anybody's interested in sitting on a planning committee, we're hoping to spend the next year planning a celebration for 125 years.
I'll just walk away from my job and come right over here.
Yeah, ready. Well, next time we'll try to get them in the evening. We're going to try to mix it up, Bob. You know what you are. And then on February 1st, Stephanie Ocasio is the one who told me 1 o'clock now. On February 1st, we're having a non-motorized transportation plan committee kickoff meeting, again, 1 o'clock, February 1st here at the council chambers. For those who like basketball is ongoing. You can catch that on Saturday mornings at Hunt Elementary or Stimba High School. Typically, the last game starts about 12:30 at Hunt and probably 11 o'clock at the high school. One of the next steps for redevelopment and its dissolution is we're going to have to set up an oversight board. And I say we, the successor agency is charged with setting it up, but we're not the appointees. We'd like to work with our county board of supervisors. Probably not a good time to tell them this, but you know, the county board of supervisors will appoint someone to sit on an oversight committee that will oversee our successor agency up until 2016, where there'll be one countywide one. It's a very important task as we look to liquidate assets. You know, we have 3 redevelopment assets that potentially could be liquidated. The McBride property, the Howard B. Hill Park site, the aquatic center site, and then we have 3 acres still remaining out in the business park. So that'll be it'll be interesting because there's many groups. Community college districts select somebody to sit on there. The school district, the mayor gets an appointee. A member of the employees group gets on there. So there's actually a 7-member panel. So we're going to have to start having some conversations about that as we move forward. Just FYI, I know next Tuesday is the 5th Tuesday of the month, and typically we don't have a meeting, but with the way redevelopment and things are constantly evolving, please do keep it open. We'll probably know in the next day or two if we got to have a special meeting, but we think we've complied with everything.
Have it at 1 o'clock too.
1 o'clock? How about 12? I'm going to throw in lunch. We've met, you know, we sit in on conference calls. We've had, you know, meetings with our attorneys, and so we're hoping we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's, but it's pretty convoluted and no one knows all the answers, and except for Tom.
Nobody doesn't know any answer.
Nobody knows any answers yet. So with that, that's really all that I had tonight, and I can answer any questions. Councilman.
Question or comments for Michael? All right, staff, chief.
What are you laughing at?
You?
That's funny.
Evening, Mayor, council members. Before you tonight is our 2011 year in review. So you can see our picture here. This is department photo we took last week, and we're utilizing the plaza. Thanks to beautiful background. All right. I don't remember hitting that function on there, but obviously I did. Here's our presentation overview. Department overview, 2011 year in review, 2011 department statistics, 2010-11 statistical
Comparison.
Yep, there you go, thank you. Budget revenue projections and goals for 2012. These are all supposed to pop up when I hit the button, not one at a time. And future issues facing the department. As you know, we're a 24/7 fully staffed department, except for office staff, who we close at 4. We have 16 and a half full-time positions. 2 of those are currently vacant due to downsizing and the economy. 3.5 professional staff, 1 community service officer who's also our animal control officer and pretty much does everything else that's not police related, handling reports. She does quite a bit, so she's very busy. 2 police records clerks and a half-time evidence clerk. 5 sworn reserve officers, which we came up from last year. We had 2. This year we have 5. 3 of those are now currently level 1 reserves, which will be working the streets filling patrol shifts. Why did it jump? All right. 1 chief, that's me. 1 lieutenant, 2 corporals, 8 officers, and the 2 vacant positions that we have open. Our budget for fiscal year 11-12 was $1,737,206. 80% of that is non-discretionary, so payroll, overtime, things like that. That was a $130,000 reduction from 10-11, but that is directly contributed to the two officers. The budget, we went through our budget with a fine-tooth comb, and we pretty much stayed on par as far as the things that we could control. So that is really the two officers that you're seeing there. That is the savings, and we've mitigated that by the reserve officers that we've hired to cover backfill shifts when officers go out on vacation or furlough days and things like that. So that's really more of a citywide savings than it is a department savings on my standpoint. We have 11 department vehicles, 7 marked patrol vehicles, 1 CSO truck, 1 volunteer natural gas vehicle, and 2 unmarked vehicles, which is my vehicle and the vehicle that the lieutenant just purchased. You guys approved recently is the Nissan Altima. Have you guys had a chance to see that car yet? It's really nice.
How do you get the new one?
How'd they get the?
How come you didn't boot him?
Mine was still in good working order, and it just wasn't. It wasn't the right thing to do. He earned it. He put in the legwork for it. He went out and got all the quotes and everything. So he did the work. It was his to get.
Good job.
That number you see right there, very proud of that number. Staffing levels are down, but we did reduce overall crime by 15.49% last year. We had a reduction of 16% the year before, and I can't remember 2009, but there was a reduction in 2009 too. So for the past 3 years, we've reduced crime in the city. We hired 2 level 1 reserve officers. This year they both were trained. They both are now cleared. And we had one of our current, who was a previous reserve that went through the level 1 training too, that will be cleared shortly to work the patrol on the streets by himself. We did some community outreach programs this year. The Safety Fair, in coordination with State Farm, we put on a barbecue day at Sherman Park. Invited people out. Those will continue this year too. We did a meet and greet with admin staff at the McConnell Center, and it wasn't as successful as hopeful. We had 4 citizens show up to talk, and it was a dad and his 3 kids. So we tried. Nobody wanted to come out and share their issues with us. 2 animal clinics that we did last year, 1 in the spring, 1 in the fall. Those will continue. With low-cost animal clinics help you guys get up to date, your animals up to date on their shots, spay and neuter. There's vouchers that you can get for licensing. Pet Finder adoptions, we got on Pet Finder, and they're working really well. It goes all over in Canada, everywhere, and we're sending dogs to Washington. We're sending dogs all over the place right out of our little shelter. It's a pretty neat little project. So that was, again, I think, did you help on that one, Stephanie?
That was Jessica.
That was Jessica?
Yeah, I have more of the local stuff on.
Facebook updates. I don't know how many of you guys are friends on Facebook of the Newman Police Department, but we throw our updates. Our weekly stats are in there every week. Corporal Borden updates them, so you can see what's going on within the department. Vehicle purchases. The Canine Association purchased a new canine vehicle this year. I don't know if you guys have had the chance to see that, but it's a really nice vehicle. Slick top, no light bar on top, all the lights inside. Glows in the nighttime when you turn it on. It is bright. It's hard to look at. It looks like a spaceship coming down the road. You can't say that you're going to miss it. And now the other one was the lieutenant's vehicle. Tickets for Tots. This was our 2nd year of doing Tickets for Tots. This year we raised $920 cash. That was donated to the our Toys for Tots program, and over 200 toys, which included 2 bikes and 1 other big ticket item, but I know for sure 2 mountain bikes that were given to kids. So great program that was started by Officer Lopez last year and continued this year. Clips. Clips is our new reporting software that used to be Klets, where you would enter into your stolen cars and your missing people. Clips is the new version of that through DOJ, so training and updates and everything was a big ticket item for the office staff up front to learn how to use this software. It's quite different than it was 4 years ago. And we had budget reductions this year, and that's mainly due to our staffing levels, and we're able to work through it with the reorganization of the department. I think it's working very well with where we're at. Maintained more in 2011 is morale is still high. We don't have that turnover, recruitment, retention issue that we've had in the past here in Newman. You guys just see officers come and go. It was about a 2-year ploy for everybody. They come here for 2 years and then they were off to other agencies. You've got people that are really buying into this department, this community, this city, and they're really wanting to do good things, and it shows in the reduction of crime. They're getting out there involved. You got officers coaching teams, working with the youth. It's great. Professionalism, I believe, has improved. You're seeing a whole different, that started just prior to me taking over with Adam McGill, from our uniforms to our cars to the way we walk and talk on the streets. Great improvement. Productivity and visibility. We're 2 officers now, and we're continuing the same numbers you'll see here in a minute. We're out in the streets, and that's the comments we're hearing from the public is, wow, I see you guys everywhere now. You guys are everywhere. We can't go anywhere without running into one of you. Partnerships have improved. We are now in very closely with the K-9 department at Stanislaus County Sheriff's Department, Modesto PD. We lost that, I think, probably 5-6 years ago, those partnerships with other agencies. We were kind of left alone on our own little island out here. But now we have a voice at the table, and we are members of that whole law enforcement group that we weren't 5 years ago. Risk management's improved. Thank you, Mikey. He's on us all the time to make sure that we're reporting all of our things, and we're working smarter and looking out for ways to not get injured, doing the right things, and reporting when there is injuries. CAP juvenile program, I don't know if any of you are aware, but we partnership with the school to reach out to youth that could be problems in the future but haven't quite reached the police stage. So they're ditching school, they're excessive tardiness, they're talking back to teachers. We now take those kids on and give them community service, so they come before us in basically a court setting. They speak with either myself, the lieutenant, or the corporals. We have a hearing with a recommendation on community service hours. They're given community service hours they have to complete, and then they're cleared from the school. Basically, the school holds, instead of suspending these kids, expelling these kids, it's another tool to try to reach out to them to show them that there is benefits to why you want to stay in school and you don't want to head down this road. Here's some of our stats. Police incidents. 2010, we had 8,112. 2011, 8,195. Now, police incident is every time we put something on the computer or we notify dispatch that we're doing anything. So basically that could be calls for service, traffic stops, extra patrols. So as you can see, that number increased this year. Cases written have dropped by 12%. That's due to the fact that we are now looking into what generates an actual case instead of just a documentation in a call. Our report writing system that we now have allows us to make calls instead of cases. So some things in the past with our old report writing system, we had to make a case, but now we can just make it a call and enter the same amount of notes, but it doesn't get an actual case number. It's actually the same number, but it just doesn't click the box that says case. Traffic citations issued, 1,435 to 1,488. We increased it by 3.69%. Non-traffic citations were down a little bit. That would be your parking citations and things like that nature. But some of this has to do with admin citations going away. Some of those categories in the administrative citations from last year fell into this category, and we didn't have it this year to put in with the numbers. So that's where you see the reduction. Vehicle tows were down a little bit from last year. Arrests were down. And I contribute that partly to the district attorney and the direction from the Stanislaus County Sheriff, who they're overcrowded with AB 109, the realignment of getting prisoners, and they basically said, you better have everything if you want to book somebody or you want to arrest somebody, because we're not going to take them. And it's getting it's desperate times out there for law enforcement with what we can file on, what they will file on, and what the sheriff will actually take into the county jail. Very disturbing news came out in my last chief's meeting about parole and parole violations that will be coming down in the near future, that the jail's not going to accept a parole violation anymore, a straight parole violation. So we'll see how that plays out. Some more numbers. Part 1 crimes, these are going to be your major crimes that are listed here, your homicides. 382 to 335 this year, so 12% reduction. Still no homicides. Rapes reported stay the same. Robberies were down by 1. Assaults were down by 30. Burglaries were down by 30. Your thefts went up a little bit and probably contributed to the times. These are your people leaving their cars unlocked and people taking advantage of a quick, easy steal. That's mainly our biggest problem is crime of opportunity. People just grabbing stuff. And I do contribute this number a lot too. I've made a big pitch this year if you guys read the paper, about community being involved in actually reporting these things. And I believe that some of these people that had stuff ripped off in the past from them are now reporting it, where they would just let it go. And I've really pushed for people to call us, let us know, because we have property that might belong to them sometimes. Motor vehicle thefts were down by 19% reduction. Arsons, we still, goodness, didn't have them. Part 2 crimes, these are your lesser included crimes, not your major crimes. Your forgery was down by 2, fraud down 1, embezzlement was down to 0. Vandalism, that's my favorite. That's your graffitis and things like that were down by 41. That's I can contribute that to us just being on the street more and having the public's buy-in. They're starting to report suspicious activity, suspicious people. Sex offenses were down considerably. And this big number here contributed. A lot of it doesn't happen in that year all the time. These sometimes could be 7-8-year-old cases that just now get reported from when people were younger, something happened to them, and now they're an adult and they want to, report it. It falls under that reporting year, so we just found ourselves in the year, where they didn't report any. Family offenses were up, again, I think contributing to the times of people being out of work, just spending more time with each other. I know my wife probably wouldn't like it if I was home all the time. Stolen property was up a little bit. That's mainly, this category is the stolen property we recovered. So that's where it would fall in. So it's actually being an increase is a good number. Weapons also, not that it's good that they're out on the street, but you can see that we're taking more weapons off the street. Drug offenses were down by 10. DUIs were up. I think they're out there all the time. It's just a matter of when we catch them. I don't think those numbers are. There was probably 36 last year. We just might not have caught all 36 of them last year. Projected PD-related revenue for fiscal year 11-12 was $53,160. To date, which would be half fiscal year, we've received 50,000. Oh, I jumped. I hit the wrong button. 50,518. So we're well on our way to where we should be. Here's where some of our goals that I presented to you last year, and I'll just touch on them. Number 1 goal was to reduce overall crime. I think we achieved that, and the number speaks for itself. 15%, that's a good number, especially with the amount of crime that we actually reported. You can see it's not a whole lot there to report, and that we can reduce even that low number, I think, is a great improvement. Efficiency improvements, that's getting the guys out there doing the little thing. We're not coming in doing our reports in the office. You're seeing more people on the street. Local hazardous mitigation plan finally has been approved by FEMA, and we now have it. It's supposed to be getting out to us shortly from OES. Phone system, it was reported, but now this one is scheduled for 2012. I believe they started working on the City Hall building with the cabling, and we'll fall in right after that. So we're anticipating spring for a completion date on the phone system. Animal shelter improvements. We tried really hard with this and researching grants and opportunities. The problem we have is it's got to be a nonprofit. So we have to find somebody that's a nonprofit to buy in to be where a lot of the grants come from with animals are probably like Petco and things like that. They need a nonprofit to go along with it. So we're still looking for somebody to buy in with us that's a nonprofit to maybe make some improvements to our animal shelter. Animal service training, she's been to classes. She's scheduled for more classes. Animal control officer, there's updates. She's always working with the vet on new techniques and helping out. Master training plan, Lieutenant Short has worked diligently on that and getting the officers to what schools they need to be in and specialized training that needs to go with them. Continued building improvements. Back parking lot was completed last year. Thank you, Public Works. We had some water line issues. While they needed to improve the water lines, they just went ahead and smoothed out our concrete because it had holes in it, and it was just going to continue to create the same problems with the water lines if we didn't fix the concrete. So they went ahead and graciously donated all the material and labor and had it completed for us, and it looks really nice. 2012 goals. So these will be the ones that come back to you next year, hopefully with a lot of check marks. Community outreach programs. This is going to be the year of the community for our department. We're going to see us out there. We're going to get involved with businesses. We're going to get involved with sports. We're going to get involved barbecues, other things like that. So that one actually went up for me to reduce overall crime being second. Still, I want to reduce crime, but we need to get the community involved along with us to help us reach this goal. Continue cost-saving efforts. Continue building improvements. Our biggest one right now is plumbing. We are calling a plumber out here once a month to clean out our lines. Just something, it's just old plumbing, it gets clogged up, and we really need to work on that one. The phone system is scheduled for spring. Animal shelter, hopefully I'll be able to get that one this year. Animal service training, and a 5-year strategic plan. Hopefully by summertime, maybe early fall, I'll have a 5-year strategic plan for you guys to review. Building for the future, the next 3 to 5 years. Obviously, we need to increase if and when the population increase. Things I would like to see: supervisor on duty 24/7 or as close as possible to that. 2 officers on duty 24/7. Becomes an officer safety issue if you don't have that staffing level and your population. You can look at the towns north and south of us. They don't have the staffing levels that we have, and you can see the problems that go along with that when you outgrow your police department. Budget training will continue. The specialized training for these officers. Most of them have now that we were able to keep a good core have had their training. They haven't left for other agencies, so we can start building on that training. Capital repair and replacement, the equipment, vehicles, computers in the cars, computers in our office. Our lease is up in 2012, so we'll be researching what we're going to do with our current computers and the phone system. Our facility square footage is sufficient for our building is fine for us, but it's poorly designed, inefficient use of the space. We just keep kind of adding on, like the Winchester Mystery House, and a remodel is needed. And succession planning, key. I guess that I came from this right here, so I'm going to continue this. We're going to build supervisors for the future. That's hopefully we can keep these guys working hard, and maybe one day you'll see Captain Borden as Mayor Caton likes to call him. And that's the end of my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the chief?
I just had a couple, Chief.
Sure.
On the mobile computers, what kind of features will they have? Will they be able to tie into our cameras at all? Is that...
That's our ultimate goal. Right now, currently, we don't have the capability due to I want to say it's a data. Maybe you could help me. It's the internet, right? The data is just doesn't. And the biggest hurdle we have is the firewall that we use for law enforcement is run by the sheriff's department.
Okay.
We don't have our own firewall,
Okay.
so we cannot have our cameras on their system. They won't allow it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that that would be like having another officer on the street if you had that capability.
And you know, the cost there to start our own firewall is pretty substantial. It's something that I would like to see in the future. That way we can cut that tie of what information we can receive and send out. And we could have, you know, Ripon has them, but they have their own dispatch center and things like that. We're controlled by the sheriff's department, what he allows us to pipe through his firewall.
Thank you. And the other question I had was on the phones. I know that you have a system that's going to be in place shortly. My concern is that I know in the past we've had some problems with people using the system. What I'm just wondering is when the system is up and running, if we can run tests to make sure that it's user-friendly, so when somebody wants to get an officer, they can get an officer.
That's not going to change. Unfortunately, that's dispatch that you're having the issues with. It's controlled by dispatch. Our phone system is just our actual phones they don't work anymore. The buttons on them they're running outdated. We're getting actually new phones, but the phone system you're talking about is when you call the non-emergency police line.
Right.
It's not controlled by us. It's controlled by Regional 911. I fought it when they did it. They went to a voicemail, basically a touch option. You pick here, you press 0 to get a police officer. It's confusing. I've listened to it. But the JPA that controls Regional 911 decided that was the best cost-effective way to streamline the calls back to certain communities so that their dispatchers didn't have to answer so many calls, because when the phone rings at the dispatcher, they don't know if it's a 911, or you're going to hear the same thing, you know, Regional 911, what's your emergency, and you're calling for a barking dog. You're, well, I really don't have an emergency, and you get put on hold. But unfortunately, that's not going to change, I don't believe, in any near future with our phone system that we're updating.
So you're saying that if someone's a non-emergency and someone tried to get an officer, they may not be able to get one?
No, they will be able to get one if they listen to the phone tree and choose the correct options.
Okay.
But that's not controlled by it. That's not the phone system I'm talking about.
So there is, as long as they follow the correct options,
Right.
they should be able to get
Right.
an officer.
If they
I know it's probably 0 gets you Newman.
0 gets you dispatch.
Well, okay.
Yeah. If you choose the Newman option, it rings back to our office, which closes at 4, and that's what everybody thinks
That's
is
the problem. Yeah.
Everybody thinks that they want to talk to Newman. Well, unfortunately, you actually want to talk to a dispatcher to get a police officer. So
Okay.
option 0 is the one that you want.
Okay, well,
Mikey, did you have?
it's a little confusing. Okay, thank you, that's all I have.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Garner? Lou? Stephanie? Wow, okay. Well, I know Don's got something, so we're gonna save you for last. Nick, anything? Bob?
This is gonna be a filibuster. He's gonna last all that. No, I just want to make a comment. I think it's important that what's going on to the south of us, north of us, is really important, and I think it's going to affect Newman considerably. So I just think that all the information we can get and things that we can start thinking about, because it's going to happen. There's no question in my mind. But I think it's good for this area. It's good for Newman. It's good for everyone in the area. So anyway, that's the only comment I have.
Thank you. Roberta?
I don't have anything tonight.
Just a couple of short things, and just in reference to the Orstema Creek. I met with Congressman Denham about 2 weeks ago, he and his staffers, just to try to get an update on the Orstema Creek. Because of the redistricting and everything, and the fact that Cardoza is retiring, I've asked that Dee Dee and the congressman try to bring Denham staff up to snuff where we are with the Orstema Creek project. Shared my frustrations with Congressman Denham as well, and he and his staffers assured me that they're going to jump in with both feet and try to make the thing move along. I wished them luck with that, and hope that they could try to convince the Corps of Engineers to move a little bit quicker than they have been. But with the development of some of the recent information about what they feel is going to be cost effective, the congressman told me he would do his best to work with the new colonel and try to move things along. So his representative, I think it's Bob Rucker, said he'd stay in touch with me, try to call me about once a week or so, let me know where they are with the whole project. And again, they're trying to get up to speed on where the project is going, and get all the information they can from Cardoza's office. So again, it's like the supervisor said, it's such a frustrating issue. And I talked to the Modesto Bee today, he called me, and I think after Supervisor DiMartini talked to Gar Stapley, I guess, and he called me, and so so I don't know if he's going to do this story. I don't know. It wouldn't help our cause necessarily, but again, Denham's office said they're going to do whatever they can to help us through the process and try to get it going. So we'll see. And that's just about all I have. So Don?
Just a few things. In front of you, Mike made a summary of the governor's budget proposal, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there were a couple of things in here that I just wanted everybody to realize. The trigger cuts are there. They're, I believe, $4 billion short of where they needed to be for revenue, so there's going to be a lot of trigger cuts that are going to be coming up. The governor is restructuring the whole state, so different people are going to be in different organizations. The CHP's moving, DMV's moving. They're all going to be under different things. I'm waiting for the czars, but that's liable to come down the road. One thing that we do note is that COPS funding has not been taken, but VLF has. So all he did was take the VLF money and move it into the COPS funding and the booking funds. So police departments are still going to get their $100,000, but the cities aren't going to get the VLF funds that they've gotten before. And I'll just, if you get a chance, kind of read through that. Enterprise zones, which did not get touched in this last round, he is looking to district reform and do them in a totally different way. So that's something that we need to keep an eye on. There was talking about RDA when I was there on Friday for the California League of Cities for our policy committees. They gave us a briefing on RDA. We were there for 2 hours in the briefing, and it literally changed 3 times in 2 hours. They started telling us one thing, they came back and said, no, that looks like it's being changed, and then they came back right at the end and said, no, it's being changed again. So there's total confusion, and they're supposed to be coming out in the upcoming weeks with administrative details on what's going to be happening. And the only other thing that I wanted to talk about very quickly was yesterday I went to an Alliance meeting, and Michael, has the Alliance talked to you at all about Stand Together?
I don't recall that happening.
Okay, it's a major initiative. Yesterday they talked about it. I had the information on it last week from the agenda, but what it is put together 1,000 new jobs, 1,000 direct jobs, and ancillaries coming up to around 1,600 jobs between February the 1st and July 31st. And they're asking cities to participate. It starts February the 1st. I mean, this is the first I've really had a chance to look at it. I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I can put on for next time if the city would like it. But
is it? We had a presentation. I don't remember the exact title of the job. Is this the one where they give you someone for a few months and then you agree to accept them afterwards as an employee if it works out for you?
No, it's actually adding an employee through the various jobs programs that they have available, and they're encouraging cities to talk to all their employers and look at just adding one person to their employee staff and utilizing programs that are already out there to pay for it. And then, of course, they want them to retain those personnel.
Yeah, I
at the
have
end.
had that presentation. I apologize. I didn't recall the name of the.
But they're setting, they're just now scheduling appointments. They've already, I guess they've got appointment sets with Modesto and Patterson and Turlock for the city managers. But that's all they've set the appointments for. So they should be calling you, and they should be contacting the Chamber of Commerce for that. But I've got a whole PowerPoint presentation. I'll send you the PowerPoint presentation. So
I know I met with a member. It's probably been 2 weeks or so, right after the first of the year. But to be honest with you, my time has been so consumed on this redevelopment thing that everything else just kind of passes you by at this point in time.
Well, in this outreach plan, it's basically just to try to engender jobs. But one of the things that I was thinking about with Project X was we might want to start thinking about as a city a marketing plan for quality of life. If they do bring in 1,500 jobs, that's, we do have a lot of homes in the city that we could probably put people into, so, might be something to think about anyway.
We can we have an economic development strategy, and we'll continue to work on that. In the next probably 30 to 45 days, we're going to come to you with a plan that really does some pre-planning so that we can start capturing some of this economic development activity that's starting to, these green shoots, if you will, as they used to be called, that are starting to happen, and making sure that when these start taking off, we're ready for that. So we'll probably have something for you in the next 30 or 45 days. And
the only other thing that I had was the California League of Cities is looking at legislation on group homes to bring it down to the local level. As you know, that's been tried about. I looked at all the bills. I think there's 17 bills that have been pushed since 1998. Not a one of them has made it out of off the governor's desk. So that's one of the things that we haven't had a whole lot of problems with, but could become a problem very quickly, and you don't have really a whole lot to say about it locally. So, but anyway, that's all I have.
Don, as you know, only the state is sovereign.
Yeah.
We exist at their sufferance.
Well, what was interesting, just as an aside note, is the California League of Cities is acting like that Supreme Court decision hadn't come out, saying that we are basically subservient to the state, which I brought up at the meeting. But, they're going ahead like, well, we can get the state to change their mind, and I'm going, good luck.
Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Good night, everybody.